you start with the introduction.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to your favorite panel. My name is Lekishon, and
And the other Lekishon.
the other Lekishon. So today we are going to talk about.
I wanted to explore the ideas around speed versus direction.
Okay.
Mhm. Like what's more important,
Between speed
which
and
one
direction.
comes before the other, and just really to explore these things in a more practical sense in life.
Okay.
And this is more because I get a lot of motivation, or I get challenged when I see people who show up every time and every day, in their own, in the ways that they can, but also being like the people who work hard the most in this economy, but also getting the least amount of money. A typical example would be like you just from buying samosas.
Okay.
That lady probably has been preparing these things for the better part of the day, and she's gonna stay there retailing these samosas, sort of like way into the night. But at the end of the day, when she gets home and she does her sort of like balance her books, is she going to be happy with how much she's made? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Well,
maybe.
Yes. I'm not guessing because
Yeah.
I've had a personal interaction.
Yeah.
With now the lady, the
Correct.
mother now.
Yes.
So there was a time she opened up to me and she told me that she makes at least 2,000 in a day profit.
Oh, this is net profit.
Yeah.
Like after you take
Profit,
out the expenses.
yeah. Only profit. 2,000 a day.
So if we work with a 26-day calendar month, assuming she gets to rest on Sundays, that's about 50,000 plus.
Yeah.
In profit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's decent, yeah. What about your typical cobbler?
Depends
as well, yeah.
Yeah, because a cobbler offers services.
Yeah.
But this one offers goods.
Yeah. So I see the difference. The cobbler just repairs; it's a service. But this one actually makes. There's a lot of value addition because you buy the flour and then you convert it into now a finished product.
Yeah.
So because of that process, then you get to book more in terms of the margins that you can charge. So really, and the inspiration was I've come across people who complain a lot. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, we work the hardest," and a good example is, let's say, the institution of a bank, a commercial bank. Typically you have your HQ, and then you have your satellite branches, right, across the country or even across the regions. And the people who work the hardest, when I say hardest here, I want to qualify to mean like people who put in the most in terms of man hours, showing up and staying for a long time, on a day-to-day basis, on weekdays, are the people who actually work at the branch level. And more specifically, probably it's the people who work as tellers. Because you open your account, you have to close it. It has to balance. You have to be there at least from like I think as early as 7:38, all through to sometimes as late as 6, sometimes as late as 7. And there, on the other hand, now we have people who we call executives, probably people who sit at the HQ. They're the people who make the strategic decisions about the kind of loan products to offer, the kind of strategy the bank is going to pursue, the kind of sectors that maybe they have a lot of appetite in, the kind of people who can, sort of like manage compliance and risk exposure and things like that, yeah? And these people typically probably work from, I don't know, they could come early because, of course, these are C-level executives, so they don't really have a lot of supervisory pressure. But let's say as early as 7:30, and they could leave as early as also 1 p.m., 2 p.m. They go play golf, enjoy conversations with their buddies, go and pick their kids from school, have early dinner with their family. So, but when it comes to, end month, and your take home, I find that the people who are sort of like appearing to put less in terms of the man hours are people who end up earning more. And so sometimes because of that kind of misalignment in terms of man hours versus compensation or remuneration, we find that people sometimes will tend to complain. And that is basically like the motivation that basically, sort of is shaping this kind of conversation. So we have speed, we have direction. And I think I've explored a few ideas, sort of like a champion people like Naval, who would say you'd rather spend a lot of time thinking about which direction to go rather than actually getting to run in that direction. It's like the same sort of ideology would apply to when people would say you'd rather spend, if you have 10 hours to cut a tree, you'd rather spend 8 hours sharpening your axe and then 2 hours cutting it down. Of course, you could choose to go with the latter and maybe cut it for 8 hours and spend 2 hours sharpening. But of course, in terms of which one is going to give you a more seamless experience in terms of the execution and also in terms of spending, in terms of effort also. And so speed versus direction. So that is a kind of conversation that I've had and I've just been trying to explore. So I'm looking at the formal economy, looking at the informal economy or blue economy, and looking at compensation versus the time.
Okay.
So what do you think? Because I'm sure you also have opinions around that kind of subject area.
Okay. First and foremost, I agree that direction is more important than speed.
Yeah.
Because another analogy is even for a ship in the ocean, if it doesn't have a particular destination, it will just
You can go
roam
anywhere.
around,
Yeah.
the ocean aimlessly,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
they have the best engine,
Correct.
best manpower,
Yeah.
the best captain.
Yeah.
It will be useless.
Mm.
So either in the informal sector or the formal sector, I
Yeah.
believe first it's the direction that matters.
Direction.
Because most people, they argue between working smart and working hard, but I believe you have to work smart first and then hard.
And then hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So smart first, and then if you have a brilliant idea,
Yeah.
first have a brilliant idea. You don't just do any work.
Yeah.
Any work with, and then you work hard in that work, and then you complain about the output. So you have to have first a brilliant idea.
Correct.
First.
Yeah.
An objective.
Yes.
You have to have maybe done a research on the market.
Correct.
Asked maybe the residents of an
Yeah.
area what they need, because you have to solve a problem. And then and then now you need to strategize, know the best possible location,
Yes.
and all those things.
Now you raise an important point again, and which probably might be a slight diversion from the current conversation we're having.
Okay.
And it's about now this direction that we're talking about. What constitutes direction? Is it, especially in terms of your value addition in life, right? And that what probably a lot of people would call like, what's your livelihood, right?
Okay.
It's like, I'm a doctor. You're not really a doctor, but you're in the business of, wellness, right? At least from a health perspective. If you're a teacher, you then dedicate a lot or most of your time in the service of, sort of like imparting knowledge and skills to other people, either your students or your apprentices, right? If you're an investment analyst, then you'd spend a lot of your time looking at investment opportunities, looking at the risk levels, and looking at the sort of like that balance between risk and opportunity. And then now you can make sort of like recommendations. And so, if let's say today, I saw a very wonderful opportunity in the market for public speaking.
Okay.
You see, like some of the people like probably attend from time to time, listen to people like Vusi Tembekwaya from South Africa, excellent orator. And then I realized in this market, not just Kenya and East African, but let's say even the larger sub-Saharan African market, there's a wonderful opportunity, and there's a lucrative opportunity around that space. Public speaking. There's multiple conferences being organized from time to time. People get paid a lot to become keynote speakers. But yes, you can see the opportunity, but let's say there are certain limitations that you have. Maybe I'm not just I'm a timid person, or my personality is I'm not very outgoing. I could probably not have a very powerful voice. Sometimes this thing is about you being able to capture and maintain that attention of your audience. So what happens when we see an opportunity, but then again we feel like we're not very well configured to go after the opportunity based on the kind of talents and resources that we're naturally endowed with? How do we go about then such?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that in any kind of business, there is always competition. There's always competition, and you have to offer something different, something that others don't have, so that you can be competitive.
Right.
So with that, and being competitive and competition is very important in the market. And as much as many people are trying to avoid competition, but you cannot avoid. It's either you're in the fight or you're not in the fight. So you cannot
Yeah.
complain
Uh-huh.
that I'm timid, or I'm shy,
Yeah.
or I don't have experience. The market is very ruthless. It doesn't care who you are. So long as you're in the market, you have to, that's why I was saying you have to have a particular direction and be ruthless in chasing your goal.
So I'm trying to tie these two things here.
Okay.
There's the direction, right, which is very important. We are
And
sort of like
and
agree.
also, let me interrupt you. And also, as much as sometimes you don't have a lot of experience at first,
Yeah.
but there is a way you can get that experience on your way towards your purpose or your goal.
Correct.
That's why you have to, if you have a bigger goal, you have to break it down into the tools or the resources that you need, the time that is required for you to be on that level, the experience you need to consult, and how do you practice. For example, if you want to be a speaker, how do you practice? You need to go to small events, even speaking in front of your friends,
Right.
just to boost your confidence. And then even sometimes you can even record videos of yourself. You can talk in front of the mirror,
Just practice.
just practice, and then with time, because there's no goal that just happens like that. Like, you cannot just achieve something like that. There's a process in everything. So you have to trust the process. As much as you're aiming high, you also have to trust the process. So that's why I was saying that you have to work smart. You have to have a direction.
So when it comes to working smart, you'll realize that some people don't seem to spend as much effort.
Okay.
Some things like success come effortlessly to other people, and you wonder, why is this the fact? And I want to tie this to the idea of competition, because, like you said, there's only so much unique ideas you can have at any given moment in life. Let's take an example of, let's say, motor vehicles and automobiles, right? After Daimler, sort of like, is it discovered or invented the first sort of gasoline engine, and then of course gave birth to sort of like an entire industry of motor vehicles, automobiles, right? After that, then we had, of course, the big break when it came to computing and computing power. Of course, the computer came first, and then now people started working on scaling the powers, right? And it's about really the foundation of, there's the computer, and then now there's the software, right? Those were sort of groundbreaking sort of like discoveries within their time, right? I think after the age of computing, which other big discovery? Probably social media, and basically just managing how people would interact with each other and breaking the boundaries of geography, and sometimes I guess even a little bit of time, because you can still be able to pass. Before the advent of social media, you had to meet a person or write a letter, and so there were two things: you're trying to bridge geography, you're trying to beat time. But now with social media, I can come and just DM you, you'll see it in the morning, you'll still get the message, right? And I can talk to you, we can have this is actually one wonderful example where you can come here, sit down, and just explore your thoughts, and then you can sort of be able to reach a really big audience. So the point I'm trying to make here is, because we can only have so much or so many groundbreaking ideas at a given point, like let's say in a generation, it means that then a lot of us, whether we like it or not, cannot escape competition, right? But then again, when you listen to the ideas of people like Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel being part of the PayPal mafia, of course, some of those people are very smart, and they've done a lot when it comes to sort of like pioneering new ways of doing business. I would say competition is for losers. Such a bold statement. Competition is for losers. So what exactly he tried to encourage people is to find a way to escape the competition, not to be part of the competition, to escape the competition. And so when you come back to business theory, you'll realize that we have two key strategies. There's what we call the blue strategy, and then, or people would call the blue ocean strategy, and then there's the red ocean. So the red ocean is basically to symbolize like a bloodbath, right? It's basically where you go to work, you have to win whatever it takes, because it's like a battlefield for market share. On the other hand, you find that, like, you see, the ocean would represent the sanity and peace of mind, and stillness, and calm. It's basically to say that you're in such a new space, people don't even realize that at first they need the service. They don't even realize, right? So basically, there are those two sides of the coin. And so basically, I like the ideas of Peter Thiel of trying to escape the competition, but sometimes it's a little bit utopic in a sense, because it's very difficult to escape competition. Then again, if you cannot escape competition, then you have to be smart. How do you best place yourself to make sure that then again you're able to sort of outsmart or find a competitive edge over your peers in whatever line of business that you happen to be in? And so probably I think one of the best ways I would say, and you know, would be probably to focus on the things where you naturally have a knack for. You have a natural aptitude or talents towards such things, right? Let's say if you have an athletic body, right? And you work on that form, of course, through exercise, through proper dieting habits, through proper rest and stuff, then it becomes very easy for you to pursue a career in the sports, right? If you love, let's say, basketball and you have an athletic body, then again, it puts you way ahead or well ahead of the others when it comes to things like, let's say, the NBA, right? Or, things like that. If you are witty and you can think fast on your feet, then it puts you in a nice place to be something like, like an orator or a politician for that matter, or a lawyer, right? Because you can be able to anticipate what the other person is saying and then quickly formulate an argument or a counter, sort of whatever. So I would encourage people then again to look within. I believe none of us has been left without any sort of natural endowments. Once you look within, you'll begin to realize that there's a lot of talents, there's a lot of resources, and then work on improving those resources first, and then find a direction which is aligned with your natural endowments or your skill set, and then that becomes your purpose in life. If you are doing something that is an extension of yourself and your talents and who you are, then work becomes play. You're basically in retirement. I don't know.
Well, I'm not expert in the blue and the strategies, but what I can say is, someone really smart once told me that it is more important to be first than to be second. However brilliant the second person was in the same industry, but to be the first,
Probably Jack Ma.
Yeah, being the first in any industry, you'll be the pioneer.
Okay.
If you are the first in any industry and you persist, you continue offering the same service that you're offering from the beginning, then there's no way you're going to lose. There's no way you're going to lose, even in the automobile, even in e-commerce,
right?
Let's say even in the telecommunication, like Safaricom, they were the first. Kitambo, they used to call them Safari Communications, and then now they had to shorten Safaricom. So they were the first people. So it doesn't matter. Airtel came, Orange, Zain, all those came later, but they had the best deals.
Right.
But they still.
But still, there's the first movers advantage.
Yeah, the first person, you're always at an advantage. Yeah. So first, you need to focus on to pioneer a certain idea, and then about the wage gap between the executive level and
the rest.
It's just how all the institutions work. There are the people who act like droids, mainly just providing service and working their ass off every day. And then there are the executive level, which just benefits. Their role is just making decisions. Those decisions that will spearhead the company or the organization to the next level. So that is their work, and I believe that is if you pioneer any idea, you will be at the executive level. So you will hire people who are going to champion your idea, and then who are going to move the organization to the next level. So that is just normal in all organizations, even in church. Honestly, even in church, there are the Pope, the Cardinal, the bishops, all those, the people up there. It's not spiritual most of the time. It's mainly political. It's mainly political. The Pope, the Pope. It's mainly political. But the people down there, the common person, They are the ones who
person
are doing
tithes, yeah.
who tithes, who fasts,
Mm.
who never miss a service. They are the ones who are holding the church. But the people out there,
Yeah.
they can even come to only one service in 2 months. In that service, you're waiting for that person like God.
Don't attack the church, please.
So basically, all organizations work like that.
Yeah.
All
So
organizations.
the question is, then again, if we understand that the people who need to reap the most, even the Bible says, you only reap where you sow, right? So,
Actually, let me also interrupt.
yeah.
There's another verse which also says that
Mm.
for the people who have more will
shall
be
be given.
added
Right.
to them.
Correct.
But for the people who have less,
Even it will be
less
taken
will
away.
be taken away.
Yeah.
So you have to have an idea. You have to have some resources.
Yeah.
So that and then you work towards it, and then more will be added. But if you don't have any idea, you'll basically work for me.
Right.
And more will be taken
You will
because
fuel
you're
my
giving
dreams.
because you're giving your time, your energy, your ideas, and then by minimum maybe a promotion or a pay rise is what you will get, but you will work like a donkey overnight. You'll work during weekends. You will
KPIs.
all your best ideas you're going to pour into my business because you don't have anything.
You don't have anything else.
You don't have ideas. You don't have resources. Nothing. So more will be taken from you.
So, tough question. Right, because sometimes I try to follow these biblical principles, and there's a lot of insight and illumination that you get, and also sometimes you get a little bit confused, right? Because and probably this will take us to another spin-off, right?
Okay.
Where it's like, do you believe that? Of course, there are people who are born with these natural talents and aptitudes. And then there are people who can work really hard. You just work your ass off until you become really good in a particular space. Okay. You get to that age of sort of distinction. But of course, the latter sort of approach or class would have to work probably twice as hard as the first class. And you'll find that no matter how hard they work, they will never be as good as the first class, where you actually have this natural sort of affinities and abilities and resources and capabilities, that just come sort of like as second nature, right? And so do you think it's going to be like, in a sense, punishing the people who are sort of like less endowed? Because let's say, you've seen this, you've seen people who are born into very wealthy backgrounds, like families. They are born with very sharp minds. They have access to mentors because of the capital, so they get a very fast lane of building social capital and credibility. So that's, we find somebody is probably like a very senior executive, probably in their own business at mid-20s. Something that probably other people get to hold positions when they're like close to 50. So you see, it gives you a front row seat into success, right? So right background, right resources, right mentors and networks, even the looks, you can't even discount the physique. So I've seen people with a complete package and then I've seen people on the other hand who, fair to say, they have a little bit less within that package. So do you think then that nature has unfavorably skewed success towards certain individuals then?
Well, first and foremost, I believe everyone is born with a gift.
Correct.
And for you to discover your gift, you need to be put under different environments, different stimuli, so that you can, it can activate your gift, so that you can know you're good at something.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you have never been exposed to any musical environment,
right,
and you have a talent in the musical in music, you'll never know you have a talent in that area.
Exposure is really important.
So exposure is really important, and that is one area that it's a bit unfair, because there are families or people who cannot be able to afford or even have that knowledge to expose their kids to such environments.
Correct.
So it's a bit unfair, but again, in this life, it's either
Yeah.
yes or no.
Yeah.
They are not they are middle grounds. It's either, and for those people who are really privileged and they have, all those things that you've said, it's either their forefathers or someone in that line worked really hard, so that to put that generation in a better position.
Correct. Yeah. Somebody
So,
sacrificed.
yeah,
Somebody paid the price.
Yeah, so that they can be in a better position. So
would you be that person?
Actually, yeah, I want to be. I want to be that person. You know what they say, like, to be
to leave an inheritance to your children and grandchildren.
Yeah, to be a generational blessing.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be a blessing in itself.
Yeah, because as the Bible says, a good father leaves inheritance to his kids.
But not just an inheritance in terms of material possessions, but also an inheritance of the hard work, of the blood, sweat, and tears that it took to get into that fast lane in life, right? Otherwise, it's gonna be a tasky stories. So they normally say, short sleeves to short sleeves in 3 generations, which is to say, excuse me, if you like, and probably correct me if I'm wrong, this thing keeps getting lost on me. So like, tough times create tough men, and then tough men create easy times, and then easy times create weak men, and then weak men create tough times. So it's a cycle. I don't know how natural this cycle is, because life has a lot of natural booms and busts, right? Or like there's always a trough. There's always what do you call the others?
An apex,
or wherever. Yeah. So life is a wavelength, and the earlier, the sooner we realize this, the better. So even as we continue to be a generational blessing to your descendants, always make sure that you don't just pass the inheritance, the benefits, but also pass the legacy and the history of the sacrifice.
Yeah, actually,
the history of the hard work, so that it becomes a complete package. Yeah. Anyway, so really, those are just some of our thoughts that we're exploring today about direction over speed, and really what it takes to be able to align, and how to basically exercise, judiciously in terms of being able to balance those two, and looking within to realize our natural endowments, our skill sets, our natural affinities, our points of distinction, so that we can be able to give ourselves a competitive edge, right? Like Elvo said, it's very difficult to escape competition sometimes, so we just have to find those natural talents or things that are going to sort of like set us apart from our peers. And so let's keep sort of exploring these ideas together. We'd also love to see your input, or I hope maybe this conversation has sparked some sort of interest. So you can continue exploring those ideas, and let's make these discussions as healthy as possible, as fruitful, as educative. And so let's make this a working country. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So without any further ado, please see you next time.
Cheers.